The Full Circle Podcast. Compelling interviews and incredible tales from Colorado's western slope, from the mountains to the desert. Christi Reese and her team hear from the movers, shakers, and characters of the Grand Valley and surrounding mountain towns that make the western slope the place we all love. You'll learn, you'll laugh, you'll love with The Full Circle. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Full Circle Podcast. I'm your host, Christi Reese, and today I'm really excited to have as our guest Jeff Zimmerman, President and Development Manager for Fort and Home, a real estate company with all kinds of arms in lots of different things, right, Jeff?
For sure.
Okay, so we're going to talk about a lot of your projects today. You are a Grand Junction native.
I am, yes.
Yeah.
I was born in Grand Junction and then grew up in Silt, Colorado.
Not too many people can say that.
Yeah, not too many.
Yeah. And then how did you make your way back here? I mean, you didn't stay in Western Colorado your whole life, but you went other places and learned a lot of different skills.
Yeah, so I went to the University of Wyoming for school. That's where I went to college. And then after that, I came back to Grand Junction and I guess I was chasing the money bug, so getting in the oil and gas industry, and then also finished college at CMU while I was here in Grand Junction. And then from there, moved to Denver, did some development there, and then eventually went to Texas for oil and gas, and then went back to Denver, and then up to Montana to work on some projects, and then made our way back to Colorado.
I think a lot of people that will be listening and watching that get excited about real estate investing and fix and flip or any kind of venture in the real estate world think, okay, how did you do it? And I'm guessing that you took some of your profits from oil and gas and leapt into real estate. But how did you have the confidence to do that?
Yeah, it's much easier to invest in real estate when you have a W-2 job and banks like that. So what I did was when I was working in oil and gas, I would take the money from the side, any extra money that I had. And the first rental that I purchased was in 2008, which is not the best timing. But the good thing was it was a duplex that I purchased. So then I had people living in the basement, and then I rented out about every room I could to my friends. So covered the mortgage. And then, once I realized that, I could cover the costs of where I'm living and made a little extra money, I was hooked. So, went from there to, working with you on purchasing a property and another one in Grand Junction right down the road. And I was always, I grew up in where my grandfather was in the construction industry. So, I understood like the trade and how to fix things up and things like that. So that helped me out quite a bit. So a lot of it was DIY. And then, watching shows like HGTV and all that, you see, that there's potential in other areas where maybe not in rentals, and we got more into the fix and flips. And that's where we did those more in Denver. And, looking back now and looking at Grand Junction, I wish I bought more here because I have the appreciation, and there's a little better cash flow too. I just got into, it's called Low-High area in Sunnyside in Denver. And it's a historic area where there's a lot of character to the properties, but it's close enough to downtown to where people would spend, $1 million to live in a 1,000 square foot house. So that helped on the profit side, but it wasn't the cash flow we were looking for. So that's when we transitioned over into more on the commercial side.
And what does that look like? That's a big leap going from residential to commercial.
It is, yes.
I read about your project in Montana. I'm excited to hear about that. But yeah, talk about how you got from residential to commercial in the Denver area and then how that translated to Montana. Yeah,
so, I was looking at it on the finance side, and when you're flipping homes, it's more transactional. So you put all the energy in, all the work in, to flip the home or to do a new build. And then once the transaction's over, you have to pay heavy tax, and then you're looking for the next one. So we wanted to get away from that. And that's why we went more on the commercial side. So we say, okay, we're looking for something where we can improve, the NOI on a property, and that actually increases the value. So that's really what got my mind thinking in a different way, to where instead of just saying, okay, I'm basing it on comps, then I'm trying to build these properties. I'm actually increasing the cash flow, which will increase the value of the property. So that's really where the transition took place, and that was in 2017.
And were you investing in some of these commercial properties yourself and keeping them, or were you kind of doing like a fix and flip on commercial ventures?
Yeah, so it started out as a fix and flip, and then we got into where we were holding them. So there's properties now that we still hold that, we purchased in 2018, and there's some that we've sold. So it really just depends on, where that property sits after it's finished.
And exiting the Denver market, and it was your next move to Montana?
Yeah, so our last project that we did in Denver was 2019, and I felt that it was getting a little frothy, which it's not really the case, because after COVID, we wish we probably would have stayed in a little bit longer. But for me, I'm always looking at, the risk side, and on that transaction of flipping homes, you don't want too many flips going at one time if the market wants to go sideways. So purchasing my first property in 2008 kind of taught me that lesson early on, to where, a property can be worth, $220,000, and then, a year later it's almost cut in half. So I guess it was good to get in early at that point, just to have that understanding. But for us, where we were looking after that point, instead of we want to get away from the transaction side and more into commercial. And in any downside, scenario, it's always good to have rent coming in, and especially with more units, and then also be diversified in the different types of assets that we're invested in.
And I feel like we're having our own little episode of Bigger Pockets here. It's great. What is your best advice for someone that is wanting to get into real estate ventures or adventures, and how to get started? And it's really hard to time the real estate market, as you were just talking about, right? You're always evaluating, but you never know what's coming ahead. And so a lot of people, think about, I don't want to get in now. I'm going to wait for things to improve, or I'm going to wait for things to go down, yada, yada. So give some advice on all of those kind of things, and how you can help someone that's wanting to get into real estate, fix and flip, or investing.
Yeah, so the first thing I'd say is choose a niche. So we've flipped, we've done retail, we've done office, we've done multifamily. And I think the one thing that we've learned over the years is if you could focus on one thing and get really good at it, you'll be a lot better off, and there's some scale with that. And then also making sure you have good relationships with lenders, investors, especially when you start getting into the commercial side. You almost have to have, some sort of outside capital coming in to support on the projects. And I think that's the big one, is just making sure that you're focused, and then knowing where you want to be later on down the road, and then shooting for that and aiming. And also, there's no deal that's too big, right? So what I wish I would have learned earlier, which is, instead of scraping together every dollar I have, and then every paycheck that I have for extra savings and fixing up a house, I wish I would have understood the finance side, where there's people out there that want to make money on their money, and you can scale with them together as a partnership. So they're making money, you're developing properties, you still have to put some skin in the game, whether it's sweat equity or, money involved. But I think it's just understanding that you can go big at the beginning if you need to, and surrounding yourself with good partners, to where even like property managers or a good real estate broker, that's very important to have those people around you. And developing those financial relationships, really important. And especially in the bigger cities where you don't know everybody, kind of like you do here, who the players are here, but it's really important here too. For sure.
Yeah. Back to Montana. So how did that happen?
Yeah, so it was one of those where, we were working in Denver, and my wife and I, so we actually met here in Grand Junction, and then we moved to Denver together, and we're in the business together. So she does more of the pretty stuff, right? So she's all into the historic architecture and fixing things up, and I'm more of the get it done person. So
it's a good combo.
Yeah, it works out pretty well. And we really, had Montana on our mind. We like the national parks and everything up there, but there was a city or a town that kind of caught our eye, and it was on an Anthony Bourdain episode, and it was Butte, Montana, which is, at one point it was called the richest hill. So it had the most wealthy, concentrated group of people in one area because of a large copper mine. Mm-hmm. And because of that, the real estate in the area is pretty amazing. Like it's up on a hill, and it's the largest historic district in the United States.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Which is kind of rare to have in the middle of the mountains.
Mm-hmm.
So we said we got to get up there and see what this is about. So we made the trip up on one of our summer trips that we did, and we just fell in love. And people can see it actually what Uptown Butte looks like in if they watch the Yellowstone series 1923, yeah. And it's still like stuck in time, like the architecture and the views. It's pretty amazing.
So I love that series 1923, and I now I need to go back and watch it and look for your building.
Yeah.
Do you still own that?
Yeah. So what was the Hotel Bozeman in the series? That's actually our building. We still own it. So Harrison Ford and I can't remember who the other is. It Meryl Streep, something like that?
No, it's give me a minute. I'll think of it. Keep going.
Yeah. But anyway, the scenes that they did, it was pretty funny because Paramount actually rented our space from us. So they set it up to make it look like a hotel and everything. And they hung a sign on the outside that said Hotel Bozeman, which kind of upset the people in Butte because they're not.
Like, hey, it's Butte. Yeah. Come on. Yeah.
But yeah, we still own that one. And then we developed another property, which was the first one we purchased up there, which is the O'Rourke building. And it was a 26-unit apartment building. And at the time that it was built, it was pretty luxurious. All the details that they put into it when they built it. But when we purchased it, like the roof was caving in. It was pretty rough. So we had, the facade, and that's the important part to those types of buildings because what we do is we go down to the studs anyway. So it wasn't that big of a deal. So we went in, we got it. And, luckily they're very supportive there in Butte because it's, the largest historic district, and there's a lot of credits and grants and things like that to where they'll help incentivize the development. So, we just went into it, and most people called us crazy because, we went from flipping houses to, 15, 20,000 square foot historic buildings. And the reason, we were looking at it was because it was affordable, right? So, and I say that in quotes because it's affordable to purchase the property, but, all that goes into it after the fact, it's not really. So
those old buildings are full of surprises, aren't they?
They are.
Yeah, you do one thing and then you have 5 more issues you didn't know about before.
Exactly, yeah. But the way that the buildings turned out, it's pretty amazing. And I give most of the credit to my wife, for all the details and everything that she put into it. And we had them all pre-sold by the time we were finished. And it was kind of a nice getaway from Colorado because we purchased the buildings in 2017, 2018 range. But during COVID, we moved up there. And at that point, we only had one daughter. So it was nice to kind of separate from what was going on in Colorado. And it was just a little more of a small town, and it was quiet there in Butte. So it was nice to, work through those projects. And our second daughter was actually born in Butte. So, so we have some other properties there as well. So multifamilies and, retail, condo conversions that we've done. And, we just got to the point where when you have young kids, it's sometimes nice to be close to family. So we realized we were a little too far away. So we moved back to Colorado, and at that point, that's when we were looking at some other projects. And my wife and I, we went to college here in Grand Junction. I'm from the area, and I have multiple generations of family members here. So, this was kind of an area where we're looking at. We say, hey, this is a path of progress, similar to Butte, and that's when we purchased the Melrose, the Hotel Melrose, and it was pretty rough as well. But there's something about the historic buildings because you can't really, it's all about what they say is location. And with historic buildings, they're pretty much in the best locations, right? They're on the main streets, they're downtown. So, we wanted to dip our toes a little bit more into the hospitality side. And we like the historic buildings, and we had some other projects here too, some multifamily properties, but there's a split between my wife and I. So I'm more of the finance person. So I look at it and I say, okay, this, 7-unit apartment building, it's pretty good on the cash flow. I like that side. But my wife says, okay, we're going to fix this hotel up and it's going to be the best. And she focuses on that side. But, looking at it now, it's much better to hold an asset that's you put the energy into, the work into, and spend the money on it, right?
Well, I love that you work together on that. And I think that anybody that has visited the Melrose will say, great job on the design. I mean, what a beautiful building. It's got such a nice feel. Love the bar. Haven't, stayed in the rooms, but would love to see the whole building because it just looks beautiful. Talk a little bit about the aesthetic and what your wife's goal was for the feel of the building, if you can speak to that.
Yeah. So, of course, like I was talking about earlier, you want to make sure you partner with the right group. So Chamberlain Architects are here in town, and, they have some experience on the historic side. So they helped us lay it out. And then, there's Danielle, my wife, Danielle, also worked with some designers in town as well, too, to kind of come up exactly with what she wanted for the, the final feel and look of the building, which it definitely wasn't easy. If you visit the place, the walls are, pretty dark blue, and that's kind of it's a handful of a project on the construction side. So painting and everything else. But I mean, the way it turned out was great. And for me, what I'm really looking at is cost control. So you go into these historic buildings and you have to do helical piers on the outside because it's a whole old historic building built in 1918, I believe, or 16, something like that, or 1906. So it's pretty old. So it's in rough condition. So what I'm looking at with our construction team is we go in and we say, okay, what do we need to do here? And then how do we do it so it pencils at the same time? So, and I think that, when we started, we were looking at the property more as keeping it the way it was, so not investing as much because it was shared bathrooms. But after COVID, that's kind of frowned upon, right? You don't want to be sharing bathrooms. Yeah,
COVID changed that a little bit, didn't it?
It did.
So right in the middle of your project. Yeah,
it was right after COVID, and we looked at it, and I think it was 23 rooms with maybe 4 bathrooms in there that people shared, and I think it was an affordable stay for people. And it was still operating when we purchased it, but it wasn't operating at the full potential. So we went in. Now it's 16 rooms. They're all suites. And then for me, I'm looking at the risk of it. So I say, okay, if we have another COVID and hospitality decides to go, into the dump again, I want to make sure that we have a backup plan. So we put full kitchens in to where we could turn them into rentals if we needed to. So technically it could be a 16-unit apartment building. But I mean, there's definitely more money on the hospitality side if you operate it properly. So we had that as the backup plan, but I felt pretty good about the 16 rooms. They're, spacious and well designed by Chamberlain, and
was it always your goal to have a non-hosted hospitality building like that? I think it's a great concept.
Yeah. So, doing our research and, talking to consultants during the period, when we're going through the planning side, they say really you have to have at least 40 rooms to where you're staffed up. And we knew that we couldn't fit that in the square footage that we had. So we really didn't have another option if we wanted to make sure that the numbers are going to work. So, and it is fully automated. So people can go in on their cell phone, they can scan, they can get into their rooms, they can get into the front door. And we have people, we want to focus more on like genuine hospitality is kind of the brand for the hotel. So really, instead of a front desk person, we want more of like a personal concierge. And we think we can do that with 16 rooms to where we actually have people support. So if somebody makes a phone call, they have somebody to talk to. You can text your phone. You could say you need a towel or whatever. So it's just changing a little bit, but it's actually providing a better service. So we want it to be the service of like a Four Seasons that you get, but not the cost that comes with it.
Well, and the consumers are really used to the kind of VRBO model where you're kind of on your own, but you have contact for somebody when you need something. But this takes it up a level to a little more concierge.
Yeah.
And how's your occupancy been?
Yeah. So in a hotel like that, I mean, revenue is the most important to us. So we're going more towards the higher average daily rate than the occupancy. But occupancy has been, pretty solid for the first year of operation on it. But I mean, the rates we have people that are booking rooms for $500 a night, in the peak seasons. And really that's who we want to focus on, because we're in the hotel zone when we don't want to compete with a True or a Hampton Inn. And we don't want to bring our prices to compete with them. We want to be more of the boutique stay for somebody looking for the experience. And believe it or not, it's pretty crazy the amount of people that come from, all over the world. They're coming to Grand Junction and they'll stay in our hotel because they want that experience. They want the wine country. They want to stay in a nice place. And, the Melrose Spirit Co., Gavin owns that, and he does a great job. And I think that's one of the things where it just kind of sets it, a little higher bar than everything else for the competition around. So.
Well, I want to talk about your affordable housing project that you are working on out in Orchard Mesa. Where do you want to start talking about that?
Yeah.
How did you come up with the idea, I guess?
Yeah, so we actually purchased a mobile home park, and there's a lot of rules around mobile home parks that have changed over the last 5 years. So, and especially since we first purchased it. But what we like to do is we don't want to be slumlords, right? That's not the business we're in. We want to make sure that when we provide a product, it's the best. And we didn't feel that, putting new modular housing or even older modular housing into an area to where there's other mobile home parks in the area. We wanted to make sure that we could provide something to the market that we can, I guess, fill the gap on the affordability side, but just because it's affordable doesn't mean it can't be nice, right? So we started working with the planning department and City of Grand Junction, and this is definitely a unique project because we call it a mobile home park conversion. So the homes are laid out similar setbacks as a mobile home, to where, you think about like when mobile home parks were usually built was in the 70s, 60s, 70s when inflation was high. And it's kind of happening again to where people can't really afford an affordable home, right? An entry-level home. And we want to be able to fill that gap, but still have a quality community that they can live in. So we're doing stick-built homes, and they'll range from 600 to 700 square feet, which is, small, but for somebody that's an entry home buyer, and they can purchase for, below $300,000 and still have, a dog park and a green space for their kids to play, or somebody that's maybe like an empty nester that's downsizing from a larger home. I think that's really what we're trying to get to. And, you see these in a lot of retirement communities to where people are doing what they call model homes in a, RV park or mobile homes, to where they don't maybe need like a big home. They don't need.
A lot like down in Arizona. What do they call those? They don't call them mobile home parks. They call them mobile communities, or I can't remember.
Yeah, so they're usually model homes, I believe they call them, and they have to be under 400 square feet. But so what we're doing, and they have to be on wheels technically, even though they're not. And that's what a tiny home is considered. So we're going a step up to where we're making it larger, and then we can do a foundation. We can do a foundation under them. So then, technically they can get traditional financing on these properties. And then it's part of an HOA. So then we have the HOA that covers all the, cutting grass and trash and everything else. So if somebody wanted to, say, live in Grand Junction that wanted a second home, it's a good way to do it to where they can be in a good community. Or maybe somebody on the entry level side to where they're not ready to buy a $500,000 entry level home, but they can come in and they can own their own property.
So where are you in the process right now?
Yeah, so right now we're going through planning and zoning, wrapping all that up. So it took a little bit longer And, we're glad that we went that route because the property started out with 12 units, mobile homes, and it was zoned for 26. But it couldn't actually fit 26 homes on the park. And I don't know exactly how they set those rules, but just by going through and getting the variance and going through planning and the zoning, we were able to get 30 homes on there. So it's actually laid out quite a bit better. So mobile, and I don't want to bore you with all the details, but the mobile home park rules in Colorado say it's like one in, one out. So it doesn't matter the way the home was actually set on the property. It has to go back in that same spot, which doesn't make the most sense for, functionality. So it took a little bit longer on the planning and zoning side, but, we're glad that we did it that way. And then, so while we're, going through that side and working on the land, infrastructure and everything else, we're actually building the homes off-site. So on the manufacturing side, and we're repurposing some units that we have in the oil and gas industry and converting those over. And we're also doing some stick builds. And then that's really what sparked the interest for us on the manufacturing side. So in Grand Junction, we're going to be putting in a facility to where we can start putting more units through in a conditioned space, and then doing the same thing and repeating in this market and other markets around the area.
That's exciting. So you already have a facility?
Not quite yet, no.
It's working on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're doing everything out.
And when do you expect for this affordable housing project to be ready for people to start purchasing?
Yeah, so it'll be this summer.
Great.
Yeah.
And who do you think your most likely buyer is?
I think it's going to be people like me when I first started out, right? It's going to be somebody that's looking to make an investment in a property, whether they actually live in the property or, you could purchase it to rent it out, because that's where the numbers are going to make sense at a, lower price per square foot, but the rents are still stable at that number. So I think you're going to have your entry level, you're going to have your investors, and I think you're also going to have the empty nesters looking to downsize, and maybe they live in multiple markets.
I think that, like at the beginning of our conversation, we're talking about real estate investing. And of course, those of us that work in the real estate industry believe in investing in real estate as a wealth building tool. So, I think it's so important for people to understand that they can get in at any stage, right? They don't have to start with a $400,000 home or the average home. They just need to get in, right? Like get into real estate, whether it's a condo, a townhome, a tiny home, an affordable situation, get into the real estate market, right?
For sure. You have to build equity. The only way to build it is to buy something and making sure you're buying right, of course. But I believe I'm pretty bullish in the Grand Junction market. And I think that, it's definitely has a lot more upside potential. But yeah, I agree with you 100%.
Yeah. And then what's next? So you're going to be manufacturing some smaller homes to be put on sites all around Western Colorado, Western United States? Yeah.
So off-site construction is our focus. Whether it's a single, and they're modular, but once they're on their foundation, they're actually considered stick-built. But it's really off-site construction. And then our other focus is like on the multifamily side. So we have a 12-unit apartment building that's starting in Montana that uses the same concept to where the module units can be, so there's some companies that are out of Salt Lake that we're, looking to work with on this, but they'll come as a module unit to where if it's a fourplex, you have 4 module units, you stack it together, similar to some of the apartment buildings that are down the road here. Yep. So off-site construction, just to control costs and, quality control and everything else. That's really where we're focused, because what we found in the market is it's really tough, especially in markets like Montana where you have a short building window. You may only have 5 to 6 months to where you can build something. It's tough to actually get it done. But if you have it off-site and you do your foundation work and then you do all your off-site construction, you send it on a truck, and then you get a crane to set the units, then, you could be done in, 3 to 4 months. So that's really our focus on the controlling the costs. And, I think Grand Junction's a good market for it because, you're on I-70 and there's definitely a need for a lot of affordable housing. So that's why we like it.
Awesome. And you have any other upcoming projects in Grand Junction that you want to share with us?
I mean, we're always looking at projects, but over by the Melrose, we're looking to expand and maybe even build onto the hotel a little bit more, to add some rooms to get to that above 40 units. Now that's maybe, 3 years down the road by the time we're finished. But, we're always looking for, properties on the path of progress. We like the historic side. So we're always on the look for properties. But yeah, I mean, I think Grand Junction, especially the downtown, is definitely, set for growth.
Yeah, a lot of good things happening there. Downtown Palisade and Fruita too, wonderful communities and just so much charm and character.
For sure.
Yeah. Looking through your website, there's a lot of resources there for people. Do you want to talk about, you want to attract people to your website to look at the resources that you offer?
Yeah. So I think for us, the main thing is education. So I want to provide that education that I didn't have, right? So I'd probably be in a lot different spot right now if, YouTube is where it is now, just from everything you can learn. So, we've tried to do our best to track our projects on, YouTube from when we start to completion, just to kind of give that education, but then also show like, hey, we're actually doing these things. We're not, just talking about it. So I think that's a big thing on our website. And then, if there's partners or investors that are in a market, I think we provide that opportunity for people to invest in Main Street in their town. And I don't think that there's, many opportunities like that out there, and especially on a concentration. So we're not saying that we're investing in projects everywhere. We're saying, okay, we like Grand Junction, we like Butte, we like these certain markets. And, if people are aligned with what we're doing, we welcome them to reach out.
Yeah. So investing opportunities for people in, what would you call it? A consortium?
Yeah. So we do it through fund models or syndications. So we've done pretty much everything on those types of options, to where syndication is usually just one investment. So if somebody just wanted to come in and say, okay, I want to invest in an apartment building or, manufacturing, housing, or whatever it is, that can be one investment. Or there's options of funds to where you can be diversified over multiple markets. So we've done both. Mm-hmm.
Wealth of information. Yeah, I encourage everybody. Give us your website address.
Yeah, it's fortandhome.com.
And that's FORTAND, not a plus.
Correct. Okay. Yeah. ANDHOME.com.
Okay. Yeah, really, really great information for people that are looking to learn more about investing and learn more about your company and what you all are doing here in Grand Junction and other areas.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that.
Yeah. Anything else you'd like to share with us today, Jeff?
No, I think I just want to appreciate you having me. And, it really is full circle since, it's probably been 15 years since we did a transaction together, one of my first rentals. So I just want to say thanks for, having me on the podcast. And
thank you. Well, I love highlighting local business people and love to learn about what you're doing and all the ways you're hoping to make Grand Junction a better place to live.
For sure.
Yeah. Thank you. So, again, Jeff Zimmerman, Fort and Home Development. And we look forward to hearing more about your projects. So when you're ready to sell those Orchard Mesa homes, let us know so we can promote them. I'm really excited about that and excited to see what you do downtown more. And thanks everybody for joining us. This is Christi Reese, and we'll see you next time on the Full Circle Podcast. Bye. Thanks for listening. This is Christi Reese signing out from the Full Circle Podcast.